Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Vince Kinsler, the President and the Executive Director of the Parkinson Association of Greater Daytona Beach, and welcome to our interactive online webinar series, You, Me, and PD. Today's program is titled Exercise for Brain Change, the Why and How. Our moderator and guest introducer today is none other than our dear friend and Parkinson's supporter, Elaine Keebaugh. Elaine, take it away.
All right, thank you, Vince. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm very excited to introduce our speaker, Melanie Lomaglio. So Melanie is a pioneer in her field, and she's a true partner in our community. She is a board-certified neurologic physical therapist, and she works exclusively with people who have Parkinson's disease and Parkinsonisms. In addition to running her uniquely specialized clinic, Melanie also uses an assistance dog, Harley, to work with her Parkinson's patients. Harley is super sweet, but he's also exquisitely trained in more than 40 tasks, and he helps improve patients' strength, coordination, balance, and endurance. Melanie is also very active in the local and national Parkinson's community. She coordinates and hosts the St. Augustine's Parkinson Support Group, and she also travels around North America teaching other clinicians how to best provide physical therapy for persons with Parkinson's disease. Today, Melanie is going to discuss with us how the symptoms of Parkinson's disease can be combated with physical therapy and exercise. And by the end of today's talk, we are all going to understand why she is such an advocate for exercise as a first-line defense against Parkinson's disease. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Melanie. And I just want to thank you all for taking the time to join us today and stay connected, especially right now during all the tough times that our country is going through. So with that, Melanie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Okay, so here is a picture of my Parkinson's specific space. And, we just opened this space in February. We were operating out of our regular physical therapy clinic, and we really wanted to create a unique space where people with Parkinson's can feel empowered and feel safe. And this is our gym. We've got special floor, and unfortunately we opened it in February, so we haven't been able to fully ramp it up yet because of COVID. But things are slowly starting to normalize. And again, just to remind everybody that as we go through the slides, any picture that you see is a person with Parkinson's. So I have some really great, amazing patients that do awesome things and want to empower you with all the wonderful things that they're doing and let you know that you can do those things too. Okay, so today's presentation, kind of breaking it into three parts. I'm going to speak to you for about 35 minutes about all those things Elaine mentioned about Parkinson's disease, how exercise is used as a first line of defense, and how it interplays with cognitive and emotional symptoms. And then we're going to go into a little bit of an exercise demonstration just to kind of introduce you to a few things. And of course, at the end, we will leave time for your questions. I think that's a very important part of your learning. So make sure that you type your questions in. Elaine is going to help moderate those questions at the end so that, you can make sure that we get them answered. So we're going to start off by talking about, and you're going to learn by the end, that not all exercise is created the same, and that the type of exercise you choose to do makes a difference in helping to manage your Parkinson's disease. We're also going to dive into a little bit of research, and I promise not to get too technical, and I will digest it for you and kind of give you the practical take-home messages. But I really feel that people with Parkinson's need to understand the research and, let you know that everything that I do as a clinician is grounded in evidence. And I pride myself on being an evidence-based physical therapist. And then I'm going to talk to you about how to start exercising. I saw lots of people are exercising 7 days a week. Some of you are not exercising nearly enough, admittedly. And so we'll talk about when to start exercising, or if you're not exercising, how to start, how frequently you should be exercising, so how many days of the week, and how hard or what kind of effort level you should be using to exercise. And then also, hopefully by the end, you'll understand the difference between physical therapy and exercise, and what my role is as a physical therapist in helping guide you in both these areas of your Parkinson's management. And like I mentioned, we will have a little bit of an exercise demonstration. I'm going to introduce you to the POWER program. POWER stands for Parkinson's Wellness and Recovery. I am certified in this program, and this is the program that I travel around and teach other clinicians in the country about this program. It's a very Parkinson's specific targeted program that is sort of grounded in functional movement training. So we'll get into that at the end. Okay, so what is my motivation? Well, I've already alluded to this a little bit, but there is just an astounding amount of research out there now. And historically, a lot of the research to support exercise in people with Parkinson's was in animal models. Animals are a little bit easier to look at their brains and see the effects of exercise. And but now we've got new ways of imaging humans to indirectly measure dopamine, and dopamine is that missing neurotransmitter that Parkinson's takes away from you. And we have really interesting ways to look at that now in humans. And so there's, every day there's new research coming out in both animals and humans to support this concept that exercise is truly medicine. Okay, and I want you to think of exercise as medicine. And I know many of you would never skip an entire day of taking your medicine, and I'm going to encourage you to never skip a day of exercise or some kind of physical mobility training. So that's my motivation. This is why I devote my entire career to Parkinson's disease, because I feel so strongly and I've seen firsthand how this stuff can help. All right, so as promised, here's a research slide. It looks a little bit overwhelming, so like I said, I'll digest it for you. This study was part of the Parkinson's Outcomes Project, which is funded by the Parkinson's Foundation. And it's actually a pretty simply designed study. There's over 3,000 people that participated in this database for collecting information on Parkinson's disease. And what they did was they looked at people all over North America. So people that came into movement disorder centers across Canada and the United States. We have a movement disorder center of excellence here in Gainesville, just in case you didn't know that. But as people came into these centers, they were given a quality of life measure. So the PDQ stands for Parkinson's Disease Questionnaire. 39 means there are 39 questions they were asked about how Parkinson's is affecting their life. So it's a scale that globally measures their quality of life, from medication side effects to depression to your motor skills, your ability to get dressed. All of those things are captured. And then they also asked them a very simple question: do you exercise 2.5 hours a week? And that basically is 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week. And then they correlated, whether they exercised to their quality of life. And so the yes, yes, yes group, that means they exercised at baseline, at year 1, year 2. They are regular exercisers, and you can see the quality of life had no change. This is a change score. So the people that exercised or said yes, 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 after 1 year, they were maintaining their quality of life. And after 2 years, they had a very small worsening of their quality of life. And you compare that to the folks that said, no, I don't exercise, and they didn't exercise at any time points. And this is a larger change score here, the 6.2, and this is a clinically worse change in their quality of life. The 1.8 is not even clinically meaningful change. So what this means is that the people that are exercising are really helping to control their disease through exercise, and that they're maintaining a really good quality of life. And those that aren't exercising are seeing changes in their quality of life. The other really important thing to look at here is the groups in the middle. So the people that said, no, I don't exercise at baseline, but then at some point changed their mind and started to exercise. Those people also saw benefits from the exercise. And although they had small changes of their quality of life, it wasn't nearly as much as the no group. So earlier exercisers do better than people who don't exercise at all, but it is never too late. And that is a really important message, that you can always benefit from exercise. But one of my goals in life is to get people exercising at diagnosis. And so in helping to diagnose people, we need people to be diagnosed earlier so that they can start managing their Parkinson's much earlier and really sort of flatten the curve of disease progression, so to speak, with targeted exercise. Okay, so this next slide is also a research slide. This research was much more complicated in its design. It's a lot smaller study, but it was an imaging study, a brain imaging study, where they used functional MRI and PET scanning of the brains of people with Parkinson's to look indirectly at how much dopamine they were producing. So remember, dopamine is that neurochemical in your brain that gets depleted with Parkinson's disease. And so they recruited a bunch of people. Specifically, they were looking at habitual exercisers, so people that exercised a lot. They defined that as 180 minutes a week, which is like 6 times a week of 30 minutes. They looked at those people, and then they also recruited people who were sedentary, so people who were exercising very little or not at all. And they measured everybody on motor skills and depression and apathy. Apathy, by the way, is just a fancy word for lack of motivation. And they looked at everybody's brain, they imaged them all, and then they took everybody and put them on a stationary bike and had them pedal for 30 minutes at moderate intensity exercise, and then they imaged everybody's brains again. And what they found was that the people who were regular exercisers were spitting out more endogenous dopamine. Okay, so spitting out more of their own naturally occurring dopamine than those that didn't exercise. And that is an extremely interesting finding. So the exercise itself, the 30 minutes of pedaling, helped these people push out some of their own remaining dopamine. And that wasn't really seen in the sedentary folks. So, and they also had less bradykinesia, which is a fancy word for slowness of movement, and less apathy. Okay. So they're more motivated to exercise. So once you start exercising, that in itself helps to make your dopamine system more robust and also helps improve your motivation to exercise more. And you get this sort of positive cycle of wanting to exercise. And if you don't exercise, then you're likely to be more apathetic and not want to ever engage in exercise, and therefore not exercise at all because you don't have the motivation to do so. So it's a negative cycle. So we need to find out who these people are. The doctors need to prescribe physical therapy right away to those sedentary folks so that we can get you going and we can evaluate you and figure out exactly what you need and establish goals that are unique to where you're at and help you on that path to a more active lifestyle so that you can reap the same benefits as the habitual exercisers. Okay, so as I mentioned already, it's never too late. So if you're one of those people that's like, I'm not exercising, or this COVID crisis has really thrown a wrench in my exercise routine, I don't want you to worry because it is never too late. And a sedentary person with Parkinson's can become a habitual exerciser. It does take work and it takes a coach. It takes a person like me to stand over your shoulder, guide you and help you, and be your cheerleader. This guy here, Jimmy Choi, he has Parkinson's disease. He's young onset Parkinson's disease, and his story is just super inspirational. So he was diagnosed at 27 years of age. He had 2 young children. He went into depression, had a very large pity party for himself, gained 80 pounds after he was diagnosed, didn't even tell his wife about the diagnosis for quite some time, walked with a cane. He was falling, okay? And then one day he was carrying his young child down the stairs and he fell down the stairs. And that was his turning point. So that was the tipping point for him to make a change in his life and start exercising. Now, fortunately, nobody was injured. His son was not injured in the fall, but it was enough of a kind of jump to action for Jimmy. And, he just started by walking around the neighborhood with his family. And those walks turned into jogs, and the jogging turned into running, and the running has turned into 25 marathons and 100 half marathons. And also he has competed in the Ninja Warrior competition. So remember, this is a guy who was walking with a cane and falling to where he's at now. And he accomplished all these goals through exercise. And if you can find the motivation and find the right person to get behind you, really you can reclaim your life through exercise. And you can learn more about Jimmy if you want to go to YouTube, put his name in, just put Jimmy Choi's story, come up with a 10-minute video. And I encourage you to watch it because it's just very inspirational and motivating. Okay, so what type of exercise you do is very important. Okay, so sometimes if you're lucky enough when you get diagnosed, your doctor mentions exercise or tells you to start walking, but unfortunately, they don't tell you how to walk properly or how hard you should be walking or what other types of exercises you should be doing. And we'll get into that in a minute, but the most important principle that I want you to walk away with is that no matter what kind of exercise you choose to do, is that it is progressive and challenging. So it needs to be progressed over time. It always needs to be tweaked and made harder and more difficult and challenging. And it's usually always needs to be beyond what you choose as your self-selected effort. So a lot of people start exercising and they do what's comfortable. To really reap the most benefits, you have to get pushed into that uncomfortable zone. Okay, and that is where you need your team surrounding you to help you achieve that, to live your best life with Parkinson's. Okay, so that's the first principle, is that your exercise should always be progressive and challenging. And now we're going to talk about the different types of exercise. So there are two major types that you can kind of compartmentalize in your head. The first is aerobic exercise. Aerobic exercise is walking, swimming, running, jogging, rowing. Those are the types of exercises that are usually repetitive in nature and get your heart rate up. And then the other type of exercise that you need to be doing is strength and flexibility training. And for me as a physical therapist, I do both types with my patients. And the strength and flexibility training, I use the POWER program, which is a functional whole body, like large amplitude type of training. Some of you may have heard of LSVT Big. It is like LSVT Big 2.0. The Dr. Becky Farley is behind both programs, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So we're first going to talk about aerobic exercise and how aerobic exercise can help you and how you should be doing it. So this is a review paper published in Clinical Neurology that just kind of summarizes all the different body systems that benefit from aerobic exercise in people with Parkinson's. And you can see it is addressing a lot of your motor and non-motor symptoms. So things like depression are helped with exercise, aerobic exercise. It's a bit counterintuitive, but fatigue. So a lot of people with Parkinson's suffer from feelings of exhaustion and no energy to get through the day. Well, exercise can actually help you combat that. Constipation also, when you get up and get your body moving, your digestive system is able to work better, and just like the impact of repetitive exercise helps to get things moving to manage your constipation. Osteoporosis, if you choose a weight-bearing type of exercise. And then this one here, optimization of your dopaminergic system. Okay, that is really important. It helps you to optimize the use of your own dopamine and the medications themselves. So drug efficiency is improved with exercise. So you might be wondering, well, how does this work? What are the mechanisms behind it? Aerobic exercise really stimulates what we call trophic factors in the brain. BDNF, some of you may have heard of this before. So much research surrounding exercise and how it stimulates BDNF. It stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF is an important ingredient for neuronal health. So it helps to keep your neurons strong. It helps to protect those dopamine-producing neurons, help them to live longer. It helps to stimulate the growth of new receptors, which is like the catching mitt of dopamine to help your neurons transmit dopamine from one cell to the next. So aerobic exercise promotes brain health and neuroprotection. Okay, a lot of people know that aerobic exercise is really important for your cardiovascular health and, protecting your heart from heart attack. But what a lot of people don't realize is that it also protects your brain. Okay, so again, talking about flattening the curve of your disease progression, aerobic exercise, we now know, is helping people to preserve their dopamine systems and improve the efficiency for a longer period of time. And even for people like myself in middle age who don't have Parkinson's, this type of exercise is also protecting me and lowering my risk of developing a neurodegenerative disease such as Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. Okay, so intensity matters. So remember, pushing yourself beyond your self-selected comfort zone is what you need to be doing for your aerobic exercise. So the goal is 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate. Like, that is really difficult exercise. It's what we call vigorous exercise. A lot of people have a hard time measuring their heart rate, or your heart rate might not be the most reliable tool to measure your exercise intensity. So we typically use the scale of perceived exertion. It's a 1 to 10 scale. So just think of it really simply as 10, you're exercising so hard, you're completely breathless, you can't talk. That's like the hardest exercise you've ever done. And a 1 out of 10 means you're like barely moving, very low intensity exercise. So the goal for brain health is to push yourself into this yellow zone, which is 7 to 8 out of 10. And that is uncomfortable exercise. Okay, you're short of breath and you can only speak a sentence at a time. So this means you are not having a conversation back and forth with your friend because you're breathing too hard. Okay, that is the type of exercise that we like to work people towards. Now, not everybody can start there. And some people can't do this type of exercise at all if you've got cardiac conditions. But everyone can engage in some level of exercise, and the goal over time, as you get stronger and build yourself up, will be to push you into the 7 to 8 out of 10 zone. And if you do that, you actually lower the amount of minutes that you need per week of exercise. So if you're exercising vigorously, you only need 75 minutes a week. Whereas if you're exercising at a moderate intensity, you need to bump that up to 150 minutes per week. Okay? And then it's also important to note that research has shown that 10-minute bouts are still beneficial. So if a 30-minute aerobic exercise program sounds awful to you, you can break it into 10-minute chunks, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, and sort of build yourself up that way. And this is often how I start my sessions with my clients, because not only does aerobic exercise help with BDNF and keep your neurons healthy, it primes the brain to get ready for learning. So, pushing blood up to your head, when your heart rate goes up, you are pushing blood up to your brain that delivers oxygen and glucose and helps kind of wake you up and gets those neurons ready to learn some of the power moves and some of the cognitive training that we do while exercising in a physical therapy session. So the bottom line from this slide is you need to get gross and sweaty with your aerobic exercise. You need to work hard and try to get gross and sweaty. So the next slide is going to show you some videos of people with Parkinson's getting this form of exercise.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 10 seconds. Oh my God. Take it up 30 seconds. This is it. Last 30 seconds of the day. Push yourself. Go, go. 5, 4, 3, 2. Nice work, everybody.
All right, so you can hear the coach, is actually a physical therapist, in the background calling out time, 10 more seconds. So we do a lot of intervals, like you might work hard for a minute and then work at an easier pace for a minute, and then work really, really hard for 30 seconds, and then work easier for a minute. And you might do this back and forth for 20 to 30 minutes, and we call that interval training. And like I said, you can also do 10 minutes of that as well and still reap the benefit. So these people are walking, they're on a bike, a recumbent bike, ellipticals. It's all different forms of aerobic exercise. You can see how hard they're working. This is a higher Obviously, these people are regular exercisers and they've been doing it for a while. Not everybody looks like this when they start. So don't be intimidated by that. But with a lot of hard work, you will be able to push yourself into the vigorous range of exercise. Okay. With that said, I need to stop for a moment and just talk about the importance of your medications, because your exercise and your medications work together to get the best quality of life. So the medications, typically most people take carbidopa levodopa, which is dopamine replacement therapy. That medication is very good at helping to manage your rigidity, which is muscle stiffness, the bradykinesia, which is slowness, and incoordination. Okay, so if you don't take your medicines, or you're late on taking your medicines, or you skip a dose, you might be slower, moving slower, or have a little bit more incoordination. And that is going to make it harder for you to push yourself up into those more vigorous types of exercise programs, because you simply can't do it because you don't have enough dopamine. So they work together. So you can't have one without the other. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule, but in general, the medications enhance your ability to exercise, and then the exercises enhances the effectiveness of the medication. So together is the sweet spot. So you need to optimize your medication with your physician. You want to be taking neither too much nor too little. You want to get enough in there that you're getting symptom reduction without the side effects. And the other thing that the medication can do is improve your motivation to exercise, because dopamine is important for motivation. So if you're low on dopamine, you are not going to be motivated to exercise. So you can start to see how they kind of go together. And then exercise, as we know already, can really help you with some of those non-motor symptoms that the medication doesn't help with. So your levodopa carbidopa is not really good at treating your depression or your fatigue. It also doesn't really manage your balance problems. So exercise kind of helps you with the motor symptoms, but then a lot of these non-motor symptoms are helped through exercise as well. Okay, so how bad do you want it? Like exercise frequency. So it was one of my questions I asked you. Some of you are exercising 7 days a week. That is phenomenal. Not everybody does that. But what this research study is looking at is frequency of exercise and how it relates to your quality of life. This is a study by Dr. Laura Mishley. Her mission in life is to come up with offensive strategies instead of defensive strategies in managing Parkinson's disease. And so she collects data from people, and you can go to her website. If you put her name in Mishley, Laura Mishley, Dr. Laura Mishley in Parkinson's, you'll hit her website, and you can take the Pro-PD. The Pro-PD is a quality of life measure. It's a new quality of life measure that is better than the last one I mentioned, the PDQ-39. And you can take it right now and see what you score. So low scores are good scores. And her mission again in life is to identify, okay, the people that have Parkinson's and are doing really well in their quality of life. What are they doing? What are the variables that are keeping them well? And then also looking at the people with Parkinson's who aren't doing well in their quality of life, and what are they doing or not doing that is affecting their quality of life. So this is just looking at frequency of exercise on the Pro-PD, or the quality of life. So the green zone is what you want to be looking at. So days per week of exercise, and this is 30 minutes of exercise, basically a day. If you were exercising 7 days a week, that had a 245-point change on your Pro-PD. Negative scores are good scores. So 7 days a week is better than 6. People that exercise 6 days a week are doing better than those that are exercising 5 days a week. The people that are exercising 5 are doing better than 4, and 4 better than 3. That's the take-home message, is that the more you exercise, the more benefit you are going to have, and the better your quality of life is going to be. And this stops at 3. So the people who are exercising not at all, or only 1 or 2 days a week, there was no clinically significant change in their quality of life. So the magic number is 3 times a week. Okay, so if you want to get benefit from exercise, you really got to get out there 3 times a week. Okay, and then the more you exercise, the more benefit you will get. Okay, so like I said, 4 days is better than 3, but 3 days is the magic number to have a clinically meaningful impact on your quality of life. So that's the number I would tuck into the back of your head to shoot for. Okay, so again, it's really easy for me to say all this. I work with people with Parkinson's all day long, and I know the struggles, okay? They're real, and there are many, many things that can happen in your life that may interfere with your ability to be active. Okay, stress, maybe you're working still, maybe you have an injury because you fell, or you have some sort of orthopedic problem like arthritis, and it makes it hard for you to exercise, or you have extreme anxiety that paralyzes you, or you've been sick, or you've been stuck in your house because of COVID. There are just so many reasons that can negate some of the positive influences of exercise, or make it hard for you to exercise so that you can't reap the benefits. So those are the things that can negate it. The things at the bottom here are the things that can enhance your ability to get active. And the big one here is socialization, okay? Getting out there and making connections with other people. We already talked about optimizing your medications. That's extremely important. Getting good sleep, eating a good diet. Mediterranean diet is the best diet. If you need to get a nutritionist to help you, invest in a nutritionist to get you on the right path with your diet. You need to feel empowered. You need to do things that are meaningful with people that you like. You need to engage in new activities, learn new things all of the time. All of these things are going to help you sort of flatten that disease progression curve. If you have depression, you need to get that treated, because depression is going to be one of those negative things that makes you inactive, and then you won't be able to reap the benefits of exercise. So this is one more piece of information from Dr. Mishley. One of the variables that had not one of them, the most negative impact on quality of life was not exercising, but it was, I am lonely. So if they answered the question, I am lonely, that is the variable that is most highly correlated with disease progression. Okay, so you can see I am lonely had an additional 323 points on that quality of life measure. So the higher the number, the worse your quality of life is. Okay, I have a lot of friends actually has a positive impact on your quality of life. So, unfortunately, we've all been stuck in our homes, but we, know that our Parkinson's is not waiting for COVID. So we have to find new ways to get engaged and to not be lonely, and to connect with other people, because being lonely in itself and being socially disconnected has a negative impact on your quality of life. So one of the solutions is to join a group, and I'm a physical therapist, so I think you should join an exercise group. Okay, because you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can get your vigorous targeted exercise in, and you can socialize and connect with other people who are experiencing the same thing as you. I know that's not for everybody though. So even if you get out there and you join a church group or a book club, and maybe you have to have your mask on right now and you're 6 feet apart and you wash your hands and you do it responsibly, but it is important that you stay engaged in your community and socially connected. That is very important, just as important as your exercise. And we're just kind of learning this right now through Dr. Mishley's work. These are other forms of exercise that have evidence behind them. So most people are familiar with the non-contact boxing, but also Tai Chi. Dancing requires a lot of thinking and moving, learning new dance steps. Yoga is amazing for flexibility, and pole walking, which helps really drive arm swing and make walking a whole body exercise. Okay, so we talked a lot about aerobic exercise, okay, and the benefits of aerobic exercise and getting gross and sweaty. But just going out for a walk and getting gross and sweaty is not going to help you roll in bed. It is also not going to help you stand up out of a chair without falling back. It's not going to help you turn while moving. It's not going to help you check your blind spot while driving. So you need this other whole category of exercise, which is strength flexibility training and functional movement training. So the POWER program that I've been alluding to and mentioning addresses all of these issues that people with Parkinson's have, and we turn it into exercise at the same time. So it's an amplitude-focused whole body movement program. And if you want to think about Parkinson's, what it does to you from the beginning is it really affects your habitual movements. So habitual movements are things that you've rehearsed and done your entire life, like swinging your arms while you walk, like standing up from a chair, rolling in bed, driving a car. These are things that you do without thought, right? That's what we call habitual. You don't really have to pay a lot of attention to standing up out of a chair until you have Parkinson's, because Parkinson's affects those habitual motor patterns. Those habitual motor patterns are driven by dopamine, and when dopamine is depleted, they become problematic. And that's why one of the first things that people notice is their arm in one side of the body is not swinging anymore. And we don't normally think about swinging our arms. So the POWER program kind of takes all of these aspects of habitual movement and identifies what the missing components are, and we call those skills. And I'll show you a picture of that in a second. But before I do, I just want to mention that you want to start, just like your exercise, you want to start with your physical therapist right away at diagnosis and use a dental model. So you want to see your physical therapist every 6 months, no matter what is going on, no matter how well you're doing. You want to check in with your physical therapist for an evaluation and some tune-up therapy if needed. Just like you would go to the dentist for a cleaning, even if you don't have a toothache. You go to your dentist every 6 months and you check in. And that's the way I want you to think about this for your Parkinson's management as well, and using your healthcare team to help coach you throughout your journey with Parkinson's. This gentleman here is doing a power move. He's doing a little bit more of an advanced power move. You can see he's working on a power step over a hurdle. He's got a bungee cord around his waist, challenging his balance, and he's also working on his posture. So he's doing whole body movement, working on posture and balance. It's all kind of rolled up into one exercise. And if he does it 20 times in a row, his heart rate's going to get up. And then we can throw in like a mental challenge while he's doing it. Maybe he's going to recite the months of the year backwards as he does his 12 repetitions on the right and 12 more on the left. So we're peppering in all kinds of different things to make the program progressive and challenging. But we have to start somewhere. So I want to just introduce you to some of the basic power moves, and we call them up, rock, twist, and step. There are 4 components that sort of break down in people with Parkinson's. The first one is anti-gravity extension. That is a fancy way to say your posture. The extensor muscles on the back side of your trunk, on the front of your thighs, all of those muscles are really important for maintaining upright posture. And when you get Parkinson's, there is a decrease in the drive to those muscles. And so they don't turn on the way they should. And that sort of contributes to that flexed forward posture. So, and that affects everything you do. So if you can't be tall and aligned, it's going to be really hard for you to take a big step. If you're not tall and aligned and you're pitched forward in your posture, you're going to be more predisposed to falling forward or getting into quick, small steps as you move and walk across the room. So Power Up really works on your extension and your posture, which is a foundation to all functional movements. The Power Rock works on weight shifting. So weight shifting is when you move your weight maybe from the right leg to the left leg. So if you really, any gross movement, whether it's rolling, sit to stand, walking, everything requires a weight shift. So if you think of walking, which is probably the easiest to understand, if I stand up and I want to take a step with my left foot, I have to shift my weight onto my right leg and take the weight off of the left to take a step. Weight shifting becomes problematic in people with Parkinson's, and that's why sometimes it's hard for you to take that first step because you're not weight shifting, because that's an automatic habitual movement that a lack of dopamine is taking away from you. The power twist is working on axial rigidity. So you always want to be working on movement of your spine, neck all the way down. So you can turn, check your blind spot while driving, back your car up, and, look behind you. Axial rotation becomes really hard with Parkinson's because of trunk rigidity. So that is an important part of your exercise program. And then we have the power step. And we do all of these exercises in 5 different positions. So this is an overview of the power moves. This is the very basic beginning point of the program. We do these in all these positions because we move in all these positions, right? We spend time on our backs and stomachs in bed, rolling, getting in and out of bed, going to the beach and suntanning, going to a yoga class. Okay, these are all activities that require you to be on your back or stomach. Being on your hands and knees, whether you're playing with your kids or your grandkids or your dog or you're a gardener. In sitting, we drive, we sit at our computers listening to Zoom meetings, we eat our meals in sitting, and then standing is very obvious. So we up, rock, twist, and step in these 5 positions, okay? And then we progress everything from there. Okay. So we're about to get up in a minute here and start learning some of these power moves. But before I do so, I just want to make sure that you understand that it is more than just exercise. The power program incorporates many different motor systems and cognitive systems. My patients are paying attention the entire time, right? It's a challenging program. We incorporate all kinds of cognitive components. And sometimes that's just projecting your voice, and that may be enough. Like counting loud while you're moving can be difficult when you're first learning this stuff because there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. And then we take it all the way to really complex cognitive challenges. So this guy here on the bottom is doing a power up, working on his posture. And then he's got a voltmeter in front of him that lights up when he hits 70 decibels. So he's going to work on his voice. At the same time, he's working on this really challenging posture exercise. This guy here is actually working on bend mobility. He's doing his laying down power moves, and we've got these fancy blaze pods where he's got to remember a sequence and they light up and he's got to hit them. He's to lay back down, come back up and power twist and hit them. So he's working on his bed mobility in a very vigorous, challenging way so that he can always get in and out of bed. This lady here is doing some balance training. This woman here is, I think she's on listening. Heather, if you're here, she has not had Parkinson's for very long, and she's doing an advanced move here. It's called a high plank power twist, and she's rocking it, doing awesome with it. This woman here is doing a seated power twist, and we use a lot of equipment to improve movement quality. So each repetition is large amplitude, good quality, and equipment and cues are really helpful because when you have Parkinson's and you repeat things, they tend to get smaller as you repeat them. So each time she's got to hit those yellow poles, twist and hit, open, twist and hit, so that each single repetition is high quality, high amplitude, high effort. Okay, so let's get up and try some of these power moves. Okay, I'm going to unplug my computer. I'm going to move into a room where I can move a bit better. And if you want, you can stand up, stretch your legs a little bit. I want to encourage you to hold on to a chair if you have some balance problems. I don't want anyone getting hurt. I cannot see you. We're going to start, and we're going to go through a power up, rock, twist, and step in standing. If you're not comfortable standing up, you can also do it in sitting. The standing and sitting moves are very similar to one another, and I'll try to show you. But as I mentioned before, the power up really is focused on your posture and alignment. Okay, and we're going to start off with a slow rep, and we're going to feel how we can use that movement to strengthen our body and stretch some of our tight muscles, all while moving into a good posture. Okay. Hopefully you can see me. Okay, so the power up is really kind of like a squat. You want to get a nice wide base of support. Okay, you're going to kind of sit down into your bottom like you're in a squat position. So if I turn from the side, you want to lead with your bottom sticking out behind you. And I want you to pay attention to your elbows. Make sure that your elbows are nice and straight, because remember, the triceps are an extensor and they have decreased activation. So you want to look at those elbows and make sure you're activating your elbow extensor muscles and stretching out your tight elbow flexors. Staying in this squat position. If you need the chair, you can have the chair just kind of stand behind it and use the chair to support your balance, because I'd rather you have good quality movement than to worry about your balance. So again, coming down, and now we're going to power up into this big, tall posture, head over shoulders, shoulders over hips, arms pulled back behind your body. So go ahead and look to the left and make sure that arm is behind your trunk. Look to the right, add a little neck rotation here, and make sure that arm is also pulled behind your trunk and that your elbows are straight. Okay, let's do it again. This time we're going to do it a little quicker. We'll do 5 reps. Okay, so come on down and power up. In your chair, it would be this. Power up in sitting. All right, so that was 1. Let's do a second one, 2. Come down, count with me, add your voice for 3 and 4 and 5. Okay, great. That's your power up, very basic, simple power move to work on posture and alignment. Okay, so now we're gonna go on to weight shifting. So weight shifting, remember, it's important for step initiation to help you initiate sit to stand and rolling, and it retrains a wider base of support. A lot of people with Parkinson's adopt a small base of support. So we're gonna widen your base so that you can actually shift your weight. It's gonna help prevent freezing episodes and allow you to take a bigger step. So weight shifting is really helpful in standing for improving your walking ability and overcoming things like freezing. Okay, so backing up, feet apart. I want you to get into an athletic ready posture like you're a volleyball or a tennis player. And we're gonna rock to the left. So you're gonna shift all your weight to that left leg. And I want you to make sure that your knee is nice and straight and you're looking up at your left hand that is open, nice and big, and your elbow is also straight, and both arms are engaged, pulled behind your body. Again, you can do it with your chair. Just put one hand on the chair and then reach up. So I'm gonna come back to where you can see me. We're gonna rock to the right. So notice that my knees are straight and it's like reaching up for something in a high shelf. So you don't wanna be flexed down here. You wanna be as tall as possible, and the arms again are kind of pulling back behind your body. We always start slow so that we can stretch out muscles and rehearse the movement. Then we gotta go fast so that we can address that slowness of movement that Parkinson's causes. So start slow to stretch your muscles, then go fast to work on that bradykinesia or slowness. So we're gonna rock, let's do 6. We'll go side to side. So rock left, come through the center point, rock right for 2, get ready, rock left for 3, get ready, rock right for 4, get ready, rock for 5, get ready, and 6. In sitting, it would just look like this. Okay, I'm gonna jump really quick to the twist. So remember, the twist is for axial rotation of your spine, checking your blind spot while driving and sitting, looking over your shoulder while moving and walking. The neck and trunk get very stiff. So we're gonna open up into a cross position, be tall and aligned. We're gonna twist, doesn't matter what hand, just bring your hands together out to the side, clap them, and then twist a little further and look over your shoulder. Look behind you and just hold that. Again, if you need to hold the chair, do so. You can also do this in sitting. And open back up to the center, facing forward, in a cross position, twist the other way, and twist a little further. And open back up. Okay, let's just do a few of those. I want you to twist, make a clap sound, look over your shoulder, open, twist, open, twist, open. Give me 2 more. Twist, open, twist, open. All right, very good. The power step is more obvious, helps us move from point A to point B. It's also really helpful for catching your balance. We can step in any direction, forward, back, side. I'll just show you the side step. And we're not going to practice this one just because we're running a little bit late on time, but I'll just show you what it looks like. So again, feet apart in train track, what I call train track feet. So there's a little bit of space between them. You would step out to the side and come back, step side, come back. We can step forward with good posture, forward, and we can step back. What I do want to show you is just a little, what I call a flow. We'll do this one together. So take a seat in your chair, and we're going to do a sit to stand with a step and a power up. Okay, so sitting in your chair, take your left leg and step it out to the side and stand up and power up. This is much like getting in and out of a car. Okay, and then sit back down. Bring that foot back to the center. Let's do it to the other side. So take your right leg, step it out with a really big step, stomp the ground, stand up and power up. And sit back down, come back to the center. Let's do one more. Step and stand, power up and sit, come back to the center, step and stand, power up and sit, come back to center. So it's actually a seated power step. We added a sit to stand, and then we finished with a standing power up. So we call that like a flow, where you start to link some of the power moves together to recreate everyday functional movement. And as you can see, I'm a little bit out of breath because I'm talking while I'm doing it. We add that too to make it more vigorous and turn functional movement into challenging progressive exercise. Okay, so this is the last slide just to show you the overview of what we talked about. You want to see your Parkinson's specific physical therapist. You can't just go to any physical therapist. You got to make sure they understand Parkinson's. Go to the website, read their bios, make sure they've got experience with Parkinson's because it makes a difference. And you want to check in with them every 6 months, and you want to start at diagnosis or as soon as possible if you didn't know that you needed to start at diagnosis. And those one-on-one intensive therapy bouts are irreplaceable. You need those in addition to your community-centered exercise programs. Okay, so they are two separate things, and you need both of them to optimize your quality of life. You also want that group community, sense of community, whether you get it through group exercise or you just engage in different types of groups like book clubs or choirs to help with your voice, and get that social engagement piece is really important. And then you need to work with your physician to optimize your medication. And they all work together, and all these are the things that you need to optimize your quality of life and flatten the curve of disease progression. I need to end by thanking Dr. Becky Farley. She is the woman behind the POWER program. She is also the woman behind LSBT Big. She is a neuroscientist, physical therapist, and she's just changed so many lives, and she works tirelessly to improve the lives of people with Parkinson's. She has a very large Parkinson center out in Tucson, Arizona, much larger than my operation, and she obviously meets the needs of her local community, but people from out of town also can go to the gym and do therapy intensives with her. She also runs a retreat every year, unfortunately got canceled this year, where everybody comes to a nice resort and it does all kinds of exercise classes all day and educational seminars and has a ton of fun. You can find out more about her and watch tons of videos. It's a nonprofit organization, so they're constantly doing things to help enhance people's lives with Parkinson's. And so you can learn more at her website. And then that's it. We're open for questions now. And just so you know, something that's exciting that's recently happened that might be able to help some of my folks that are living down in Daytona is that we can now, as physical therapists, do telehealth. So if you want a consultation with me, please reach out. That's my cell phone. You would need a doctor's prescription, but we might be able to work something out during this COVID era with some telehealth. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Melanie. That was an excellent talk and exercise demonstration. And we do have questions that have come in. One of them you've already answered. One person asked, during COVID, are there good options for telemedicine? So as you mentioned, yes, and you can do that directly with Melanie. So I'm just going to go through some of these questions on the chat feature.
I can add to that too. We are offering free Zoom exercise classes right now. We have 3 different levels of power classes. So we have like a beginner level, intermediate, and an advanced level. I would want to evaluate the person just to make sure that they're ready, because the people that are in the classes are already familiar with the power moves. But that is something that we are doing to help people during the COVID crisis.
Fantastic. And they can get more information on that by reaching out to you through this information that you've provided on the slide.
Yes, they can.
Perfect. All right, so that leads us to the next question, which is, can you exercise too much? So I guess kind of makes me think of like, can you become addicted to exercise, or is there a point where there may be too much cardio?
Yes, I think the answer is yes. You can do too much of anything. You can drink too much water. You can drink too much milk. So yes, if you overdo it and you are tearing your body down, you're at risk for injury, essentially, overuse injuries mainly. Things like stress fractures, tendinitis, those types of things that can happen when you overdo it or over exercise. And then that's going to put a complete halt in your exercise program because you're in pain and unable to exercise. So yes, you can absolutely overdo it. I don't really see, there are some people probably with Parkinson's, maybe some of the DBS folks where they are really highly motivated that might exercise too much, or there are definitely some people out there, but by and large, we have the opposite problem where people are just really struggling with motivation. And that's where you need a community of people behind you to get you going. But yeah, the short answer is yes, you can.
Okay. And it seems like having a coach or a physical therapist would be a good way to kind of monitor the amount of exercise that you're doing to make sure it's safe. And that leads us to the next question from Laura, who asked, is 60 minutes of exercise a day for 3 days as good as 30 minutes a day for 6 days? So I guess it's this question of how do you find the right balance?
Yeah, I think, so that's a really good question, and there's not one size that fits everybody, whether you might be working or have other responsibilities, and so you can't exercise every day. You carve out longer periods of exercise sessions on fewer days of the week. And, as long as you're doing the right kind of exercise and you're getting both flavors of a mix of aerobic and functional-based exercise, and 3 times a week for 60 minutes sounds fantastic. Okay, if only everybody in the world could do that. So that sounds like you are on a very good path of your exercise. Again, just making sure that it is vigorous, it's progressive, it's challenging, you're getting flexibility, strength, and aerobic exercise tucked into those 3 days. Then it sounds like you're good. Now, some people just don't do well when they don't move. So if you fit into that box and you have to, do your power twist every morning just to roll out of bed, then you might need to spread it out. So on every day and do maybe shorter bouts. Or there's no right or wrong answer for that. It's going to be based on the individual.
Okay, so kind of see what your body tells you and listen to it.
What's going on in your life?
Another question we have, and this one is still on exercise, but it gets a little different, is what about caregivers? Can caregivers participate in some of these online Zoom classes? Because, it's from the data you showed, it's not just important for people with Parkinson's to exercise, but really everyone.
Yeah. Yes, of course they can, because everybody in this world needs to exercise.
Okay.
So there's, just more reasons for people with Parkinson's to exercise, as far as flattening their disease progression and living their best lives. But all of us need to exercise. So having caregivers, I think, is really important. Again, it depends on the coupling of the two people. Some people need time away. Some people need to go off and do their own exercise class in a different location. Some people enjoy exercising together, or they can help one another and motivate one another. So the short answer is yes. they can participate. I'm actually doing a private boxing class for a couple right now, husband and wife team. One of them has Parkinson's and one doesn't. So yes.
Great.
Now,
And then, oh, go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Interesting that you said that. Like with Power Move, or like Rock Steady Boxing as an example, it's specifically for people with Parkinson's, and I totally concur with you that everybody could get value from exercise. And what I practiced what you were doing here today. I got you on full screen, and I really liked it. I see a lot of correlation between like yoga and movement with yoga. And I can see the benefit there. But again, if these things are very Parkinson's specific, like for instance, your Zoom classes for these Power Up, I'd like to participate in something like that, but I don't have Parkinson's. Is that a problem?
I mean, my focus is on helping people with Parkinson's. I've applied for a grant, and that money needs to be used to help the individuals with Parkinson's. In the future, especially just because this comes up all the time since I've written the grant, I've been hearing so many questions about it, about the caregiver, and I would probably write a different grant that would include the caregiver in the classes, or maybe have them do the classes in a different space or do them together, have both options. Parkinson's, some people think of it as an acceleration of the aging process, right? As we get older, we have poor posture. As we get older, we get stiff through our spine. So yes, everybody can benefit from the Power Moves. They were designed for people with Parkinson's based on motor control problems that people with Parkinson's experience. But really everyone can benefit from them because you're just keeping your whole body kind of fine-tuned. The things that wouldn't necessarily apply to you would be maybe like, let's use a loud voice, or work on your ability to dual task, or how to overcome freezing of gait. Some of the things that I address with my clients are unique to people with Parkinson's, but just a plain old exercise class, like a Power Moves class, all people can benefit.
Thank you.
And then the other question sort of related to that was, in the cardio intensity examples, were all of those people actually patients with Parkinson's disease?
Yes. Everybody, every one of them. And that is, like I said, when we were watching those videos, not everybody is capable of what those people were doing. So every program is unique to you. So you might be able to walk on a treadmill, but it's at a very slow speed. But if I can push you up just a little bit, then you might get pushed up to a 7 out of 10 effort-wise, because that's how hard you're working for you. So everybody is different. I like to show that high-level videos because with a lot of work, a lot of people, if we can get people diagnosed and get it sent earlier, are capable of doing that. And, my mission in life is to get people into physical therapy early. A lot of people don't get sent to physical therapy until they've had a fall. And then, that's the trigger for the referral. And although you can still benefit at that time point, it's not as much as I would like. I want to help people early on. And when they can exercise at a much more vigorous level, and it's just try to flatten that curve. The earlier we can get to you and get you going on these programs, the more you can flatten that curve and prevent yourself from ever hitting stage 5, let's just not even have that as an option. But that's going to require people to get moving earlier. And it's also going to require people to get diagnosed sooner. So we need better ways of diagnosing people so we can identify them and get them going quicker. The people with Parkinson's had Parkinson's long before they're diagnosed. There's this prodromal phase where people have non-motor symptoms, sleep disturbances, restless leg syndrome, lack of smell, constipation. They have no idea they have Parkinson's, but it's there. No motor symptoms are present yet, but if we can identify those people early and get them going, then we're going to flatten that curve better. So the earlier the better, but it's never too late.
Okay, I think that's all of our questions. I just want to thank you, Melanie. This was an excellent presentation, really excellent. I gained a lot out of it. I'm certain all the attendees did as well. So thank you again. We're truly grateful for your time and your excellent presentation today.